From failed business opportunities to an incredible gain of 3,000%. I'm so excited for you to hear about this conversation with my new friend, Greg Workman. He is redefining the junk removal business using technology, connecting customers and providers. I'm so excited for you to hear from my new friend, Greg. Welcome to Market Mavericks. I'm Matthew Eford. Join me as I speak with leaders who are redefining industries in every corner of the market. From startups to established businesses, we'll uncover the strategies, challenges, and insights that drive success. Get ready to be inspired by the Mavericks who are shaping the future of business. Welcome, everybody, to the Pillars of Purpose podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Eford, and I'm so excited to have this conversation with my new friend, Greg Workman, a true market maverick. And he is disrupting the junk industry. As I'm so excited. We had a mutual friend connect us. And Greg, for those who may not know you, if you're come on, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your business.
Yeah, thanks, Matthew. Appreciate you having me on the show. So I am the founder and CEO of LoadUp Technologies. And essentially what we are is we're a marketplace that connects homeowners and basically independent mom and pop junk haulers. So we facilitate junk removal transactions, and we do it all over the country.
Wow.
And yeah, it's been a fun 11 years growing this business.
That's amazing. Okay, so I love to get kind of the origin story, right? Is this something that you had a background in either junk removal or technology? Like, how did you get into this space?
Not a technology guy.
Okay.
I grew up in and around the logistics space. So my dad, he ran a moving company in Atlanta for 20 years, and then got into last mile delivery. Was the president of a last mile delivery company.
Wow.
I ended up working for him right out of college, and that was my first foray and really handling heavy, bulky goods. And then I ended up leaving that company, ended up going to work at Waste Management. So got a flavor of the waste industry, but always very entrepreneurial by nature. So that's really how I got my footing in the space, and kind of fell backwards into the junk removal industry or niche.
Well, congratulations. So we have a lot of folks that would consider themselves a entrepreneur, right? They're in a career, they're in corporate America, and they really want to jump into business ownership. So something I'd love to get is, can you kind of take us back to that first maybe 12 to 18 months of starting the business? What do you remember about that time, and maybe a couple of nuggets that you can take from that time that if you could go back and do it over, you would do it a little differently?
For sure. Yeah, so I was the definition of a entrepreneur. I was young, out of college, young and dumb is the saying. I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I just didn't really know how to get there. So I had a couple startups that were failed businesses. I thought I had this one huge idea. I even got funding for it. I was going to be a SaaS product in the dumpster rental space. And around that time, I landed this funding. I also had a side gig opportunity to pick up people's old mattresses. And that was really bred from working in the waste management industry. There's a niche with mattresses. They're the hardest item to get rid of. Most waste companies, they'll take them, but they don't want to because they're just a nuisance. They take up a lot of space on the trucks. And then at the same time, all the incumbents in the junk removal space at the time, they won't give you a price out over the phone. So I saw a nice opportunity to just hone in on mattresses in the Atlanta area, make some side cash while I was doing my big $1 billion startup idea. And it took off like wildfire. I threw up a website on the weekends, and me and a buddy a week later, after ranking first on Google, we were picking up mattresses with a U-Haul trailer. But realized really quick that it wasn't that fun touching people's old nasty mattresses.
Sure.
I kind of realized really quick I didn't want to be the guy in the truck. Uber was becoming really popular around this time, and I was like, man, maybe I could Uberize this thing for mattresses. And that's kind of what ended up happening. There was a lot of weaving in and out to get there,
Sure.
but one of the very unique things that happened during that time is I was trying to figure out how to Uberize the model, and I got calls from some of the biggest ecom bed and box companies in the country, like Casper, Mac, Lisa, Purple. So all the big ecom only brands, they were all looking for a national solution. They couldn't find one. They found me just on my little rinky-dink website I had in Atlanta, and they're like, "Hey, you think you could do this nationwide?" And I was like, "Yeah,
Wow.
totally pretending." I was like, "Yeah,
Sure.
absolutely."
Yeah, our team could do that. Yeah.
Yeah, so literally stood up a order form that allowed ingestion literally anywhere in the country,
Wow.
and as we got the jobs, I went and found somebody that could go do it. I wouldn't recommend doing that today. A lot of legal and compliance issues in that. Looking back, that was a good thing that we did it at the time that we did it, but not something I'd recommend moving forward. But the one nugget that I'll kind of share of like what would I have done differently in those early days is we were very fast and loose. Like we had a ton of opportunity coming at us before we were really ready, before we had structure, or really even thought about how to structure the company the right way. So if I could go back in time do things the right way, I would
Sure.
have put together core values for the company. I would have put together a mission statement that actually made sense and that was, more long term focused. And one thing that's really turned the corner for our business today, and it took 8 years to get to this point where we released a purpose statement for our company. Um, as you grow and scale a business, it's really hard to know who to hire, um, what are we all rallying around? It's easy to get caught up in rallying around like, oh, we got this business, let's go chase it. But you can really end up in a scenario where you're on a sailboat without a rudder.
Yeah,
And
it's what a beautiful picture for us to consider. Yeah.
exactly. So that's where we found ourselves once we hit a pretty large scale. I mean, we started doing upwards of 15 million in revenue,
Okay.
and that's where we kind of started to realize like, man, we're on a sailboat without a rudder. We went and chased things that we should have never chased. We lost a ton of money, and then kind of coming out of that, we we're able to keep the business afloat, and then we've started to really formalize some of these things. Um, so yeah, that would probably be my biggest nugget.
And so talk us through that process. So you're 8 years into this startup, which kudos for you for not giving up. And you're saying, hey, we need to pivot. We need to do things a little bit differently. We need to bring some additional structure. We need to bring some additional clarity for our team as we scale and as we grow. What did that look like for you when you say we released a purpose statement? We got core values. Like what was that process like for those who may not have been through that or may have just kind of thrown it up on the weekend on their website and they haven't really done a strategic planning?
Mhm. Well, businesses are when you start to scale, they're all people centric, right? There's technology, there's processes you can put in place, but at the end of the day, people end up running the company. And when you hit a certain level of scale, you start to realize, like, man, it becomes incredibly frustrating if you don't have the right culture and you're not surrounded by the right people that are
Sure.
all trying to achieve the same thing. So what that ended up looking like is I was kind of me and my now business partner, um, we realized like, man, we're surrounded by the wrong people, and we had made a bunch of mistakes ourselves because we were also directionless at the same time,
Okay.
and things just started to fall apart. So it was not a process that we could just microwave overnight. It took a lot of time. It took a lot of turnover in the business. Some of it by us, some of it just natural attrition. As we tried to formalize things, some people raised their hand and they're like, "Yeah, I don't want to be a part of what you just put down on paper." So they saw themselves out the door. So it was a tough process, and that's why I kind of highlighted like if I could go back and do something different in the company, it would be that to formalize it, because it's really painful when you get pretty far down the road and you've got a big business, and your lifestyle has changed, and you've become accustomed to this certain level of income, and then to see it almost fall apart. And the reason why it's falling apart is because you didn't formalize these things
Sure.
in their lives.
Yeah, that's a fantastic point. Okay, so Greg, you look at your existing business, and you're serving all 48 continuous states here in North Atlanta or North America. What does that look like for you? Where's kind of the scope that you're serving right now?
Yeah, so all 48 contiguous, and then Alaska and Hawaii. We do some pickups there. One of the key advantages is that we have the largest geographic footprint in the United States, which is really attractive to a lot of our business to business clients.
Sure.
Uh, and they're about 30% of our business today. The rest is really just direct to consumer or direct to
Wow.
commercial accounts. They're that would be like in a storage facility or a warehouse,
Sure.
and we do one-off type bulk cleanouts for.
So you had the Uberization idea for this, and
Mhm.
what did it look like when you actually got it up and going? You said, okay, this is actually viable. This is no longer we're selling a job in Tennessee and then we're trying to go find somebody in Tennessee to do it. What was that big shift for you where it was like, okay, this is going to work?
Mhm. Yeah, I'd say it was when we found the right software to facilitate it,
Okay,
because it became really evident that it wasn't scalable to do this on spreadsheets and email. And
sure,
that's where it really started. We didn't have a system to really coordinate all these jobs all across the country. Um, so when did I realize it was going to work? Is when we got our first true software solution that was tailored to help us facilitate this, and your customers felt that.
cool,
And when the customer feels it and they feel confident in giving you more and more business, um, in a two-sided marketplace like we run, it's a weird balance, right? You have to have the providers, but you have to have the customers, because if you don't have
sure,
customers, providers are not interested real quick.
yeah,
Um, so the validation from the customers is really where it started, and it really started when we were able to show, like, hey, we do have an actual national software that is turnkey that will help you run your business more effectively. So that was probably the moment where I was like, man, we got something. This is a rocket ship, and we grew at a rate of about 3,000%.
it's amazing. That's
Mhm.
that's unbelievable. Okay, so when you look at you're recruiting two types to be in your ecosystem. You're recruiting customers and providers.
Mhm.
So talk to us on the provider side, right? A lot of our um, listeners, they're small business owners or solopreneurs, and they probably are mostly W-2. They're not using a lot of 1099. They're not recruiting a lot of people outside of their small team. So, what does that look like for your organization, and what insight or wisdom can you share in large scale recruiting?
In large scale recruiting. It kind of goes back to having a formal process of knowing what you're looking for. If you're looking for independent contractors and even W-2 folks coming on board, it's just as important to know what's the profile, share with those candidates, here's what we do, here's what we stand for. Are you on board with that or not? And quickly identify it. Because if they don't, then it's a non-starter and we're wasting everybody's time.
Okay,
We saw it time and time again growing the company. We still see it today. Like, nobody gets it perfect out of the gate, but
sure.
having a process, you can mitigate that risk of bringing on the wrong people. Hopefully, I'm answering the question the way
Yeah,
that you asked. Did
yeah,
I
yeah.
miss something there?
No. That's I guess just the perspective of you're not trying to hire 10 people for your local office. You're hiring thousands of people across the country. That's just a very unique perspective, and so I want to make sure that we address that. I love the idea of kind of building a persona or profile for what that person looks like, and then giving them some structure of here's how you integrate into our system. So
Mhm.
you talked, Greg, about getting your correct software, getting that in play. AI is a gigantic topic right now. Within your organization, are you leveraging AI at all? Can you talk to us about that some?
Yeah, yeah, we're absolutely leveraging AI. The I can't give away too much of the secret sauce of some of the stuff we're working
Sure.
on. Image recognition is a big thing that has been unlocked by AI.
Wow.
So parsing what items are in an image is a game changer in our space.
Cool.
Oftentimes we get on the phone with a customer and they're like, "I got a pile of stuff out back or a pile of stuff in my garage," and we're like, "Well, I have no idea how to quote this because we really can't see anything. So can you verbally describe it as best you can?" And there's always this big disconnect. So the alternate is like, "Hey, send us pictures." That's a cumbersome process of going back and forth with sending images. But we're working on a model where a customer can self-serve, do this on the front end of our site, and just upload an image. We can diagnose the image, and we can give you a real-time price
It's amazing.
online.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's amazing. What a
Yeah.
cool piece. And so for your technology, just to confirm to make sure I'm understanding this correctly, you're helping local mom and pops build out their business by providing them clients or helping them with this software as well.
Yeah. So LoadUp, how we're helping independent contractors is it's a very saturated space in junk removal because it's a low barrier to entry.
Sure.
It is all about marketing and how well you can brand position yourself. And because it's so saturated, there's a lot of really strong mom and pop brands that will dominate a local market, or it'll be a big national brand like 800 Got Junk or Junk King. So, the smaller people who want to do the work but can't get the market share, that's really where we come in.
Gotcha.
We're a powerhouse in digital marketing in this space specifically. So we bring customers. That is the number one thing that we do. And a lot of the entrepreneurs that jump on board onto our platform, there's repeat business opportunity that comes from the platform. So really, we're kind of like a marketing arm for them.
Nice. Yeah. You've created the ecosystem marketplace for them to be
Mhm.
able to leverage and grow. I love that. It's what an incredible idea. So, Greg, as a leader, you've had an experience of 3,000% growth, which is absolutely wild. When you look back on your journey as a leader, how have you personally grown? What
Mhm.
advice would you give to us as leaders looking to scale our business, right? To get to the next level, whatever that next level may be, we've got to grow. So, can you
Mhm.
kind of talk us through your personal professional development? What does that look like, and what advice would you give there for another business owner?
Yeah, I would say it's two things. First would be put your pride aside. Like that's the biggest thing that I had to learn. I had a ton of pride early on. That 3,000% number went straight to my head in the early days because that was early.
Okay,
That was the first 3, 4 years of the business we hit that scale. And that went to my head so fast. I thought I could do no wrong in
sure,
business. Every word I said was gold. And then I found out, the hard way that that wasn't the case. And there were people that were placed in the business that were trying to tell me, and they were right looking back. But my pride got in the way. So we could have been at a different stage much sooner had I put my pride aside. So that's one thing that I had to learn. The second thing that I had to learn in my development was to surround myself with people that were going to pour into me from a mentorship perspective.
okay,
And it kind of ties back into the pride thing a little bit. I thought I knew everything already. And, this was 27, 28-year-old Greg at the time, and I didn't know anything looking back. Um, so that was one thing that I had to go find those people and find the right people that were going to impart wisdom that had been there and done that and learn from them. So really it's kind of two parts. I'd say the core of it, it's learning,
yeah,
being open to learning from people that have been there, done that have a lot more wisdom. in the business world and just in life. So that's a big area where I had to grow and pick up some books, right? Like for the first 10 years, I was like, man, I know everything. I don't need to read anybody's book. They're just trying to sell me something. Well, it turns out, I started reading books pretty heavy, 5 years ago, and have learned a ton and been able to apply those things to our business.
Nice.
And it becomes really important when you're trying to scale the business and learn how to deal with people, how to structure a company, et cetera.
So let's take the two excellent pieces of advice. He walks with wise, becomes wise, but a companion full suffers harm. Proverbs 13:20. Right, you surround yourself with wise people. Kudos to you. Congratulations. When you look at facilitating those relationships or conversations, what advice would you give to a younger entrepreneur who's saying like, I want to do that, but I don't know how to start that conversation. I don't know how to structure that.
Mhm.
What advice would you have?
Um, you know, don't start with don't start with it being business, right?
Okay.
So a lot of the people that I hit that ended up coming in on that counseling to me, it was through church, right? And it wasn't from a business context. Go seek circles of people that you have value alignment with at a
Okay.
personal level.
Okay.
And then secondary to that, you start to figure out that landscape and who may be within that circle. Not everybody is going to be somebody who can give you the right kind of wisdom because they don't have the context or the been there done that component. So
I
that's
love
probably
that.
the biggest piece of advice is like don't start with like going to seek somebody to help you with your business. I think that might be the best way to get taken advantage of if you
Yeah,
start with that. Find people that you align with on a personal level first, and then cultivate the relationship into, hey, can you help me with some business
I
advice?
love that. Yeah, fantastic. Okay, and then to this your second point earlier about reading, avid reader myself. What's one in the last 12 months that you've read that's been really impactful for you?
Good to Great by Jim Collins.
Yeah.
Great book, old book. Some of it's outdated. They reference some companies. They're like,
Yeah,
"Oh, this
sure.
company and never going to go out of business," and it's like this is Sears we're talking about. And it went out of business. So, but the concepts in the book are they're amazing, and there's so much truth in them. So if I was imparting something onto an entrepreneur who's wanting to get started or is started and trying to grow their business, I would push them to read that book specifically. There are other books, but that one is really great because it really gets at the heart of what runs a business, and
Yeah.
it's all about people,
Yeah.
right? It's the phrase in the book is first who, then what.
Yep.
Um, so
Yep.
don't worry about what you're going to build. Worry about who you're surrounding yourself with, and are they the right people?
Get the right people on the bus and then get them in the
Mhm.
right seat. Yeah, I
Yep.
love that. Okay,
Yeah.
so Greg, when you look at your role now within your organization at the scale that y'all have gotten to, what is kind of your role within the organization?
Yeah. So I mean, I'm the visionary of the company, culture cultivator, and just overall strategic direction. I've kind of stepped out of being a manager operator of the
Okay.
business at this point. It's just not my strong suit. Yeah, I can manage people, but it is not what that is not how I bring the most value to the company at this stage. So I have a president that runs the company. He's the guy that actually was in the truck with me in the early days in a
Nice.
U-Haul trailer.
Yeah,
Uh,
cool.
and we were both working full-time jobs elsewhere at that time. But yeah, he's the day-to-day operator, and I'm the visionary culture guy.
I love that. And
Mhm.
is he your integrator as a visionary? Are you running on EOS?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So we've adapted EOS, but that was another book that I would recommend highly to folks. EOS really helped create that structure in the early days. But yeah, he's the integrator.
Very
Yeah,
cool. Very cool. Well, Greg, as we're kind of bumping up to the end of our time, I appreciate you sharing. I appreciate you being willing to to talk about the business, talk about your life, talk about things that you've done well and things you hadn't done well. As you kind of look out over the future, what are you most excited about your business?
Yeah, most exciting thing about the business is that we're hitting a whole new level of scale that is, it's uncharted territory for me. I think we've kind of been in this small to mid-sized scale for a bit, and we've got some really exciting things coming down the pipe that I can't share all of, but it's going to hit the next level of the business to take over more market share
Well,
in our space, and just seeing the culture come alive without me having to have my hand on it the whole time, right? I've gotten people around me that I trust that they can go now hire the right people, and I don't have to do it all. So that's really exciting to just see it become its own living organism at this point. So that's really exciting about the future. And yeah, I know it's very vague,
that's
but
okay.
I'll
I
have to
understand.
hold back some of the secret sauce
Yeah,
to the
I understand that you
yeah,
got some stuff that you can't release yet. I understand.
yeah.
Um, okay, so last question for me is there any kind of overarching advice that you would have wished that you would have had that you hadn't already shared that just kind of on your heart of like, man, I really wish I would have known this.
Um, yeah, don't be a moron. No, I'm just kidding.
that's that's definitely gonna be the title. That's fantastic.
uh, no, I would say, um, money is a blessing, right? But it's not the end all be all. And it's a very common
Sure,
piece of advice. Um, in the early days, that's what I was chasing. I wanted all the money. I wanted all the things that would come with money. I achieved a lot of that stuff, got it. And I can attest that what other people say is that money doesn't buy happiness. It can buy comfort for sure.
sure.
It can buy some great things, but um, man, at the height when I was probably making the most money personally I was ever making, I was empty inside and neglected my marriage. So, if you're married, your marriage comes first. The business
Yeah,
is secondary. Um, and then when you have kids, that's a whole nother realm. And that'll mature you really quick. And that's kind of what happened. Had kids, had this emptiness of had all these things, but really wasn't very fulfilled. So that would be the biggest piece of advice: is get get your priority in line, and that doesn't mean your time allocation is 100% dedicated to your family, because it's really
sure,
hard to
sure.
grow a business and do that at the same
Amen.
time. But get the priorities right on um, where you should be leaning your time priority to.
Sure. Yeah. And,
Yeah,
and getting focused on what we say yes to and what we say no to. Right.
right.
That's I think
Mhm.
the biggest gift, as you've kind of alluded to, the biggest gift that priorities allows us and clarity around that for whether it's in our business, for our mission statement, purpose statement, whether it's for us personally, whether it's for our family, of like, what are we willing to say yes to, and also what are we willing to say no to? Because as
Right.
business owners, man, we love to chase the yes, for the
Mm.
new deal, the new business, the new employee, the new opportunity. But sometimes we've got to be willing to say no.
Mhm. That's right. Yep.
Well, Greg, man, if somebody's interested, they're hearing this, they're in the junk removal space, and they want to know more about how they get connected to your organization, please don't give a cell phone number. It's not at all what I'm asking, but how they get connected to you or to the organization, how they get connected to the team.
Yeah, absolutely. We have an easy sign up form at our website, goloadup.com. Pretty easy to navigate. Whether you want to be a customer or a loader, which is one of our independent contractors, pretty seamless process to get started, and a lot of it's self-serve, so you don't necessarily have to talk to anybody. Somebody will reach out to you in the process, but yeah, that's the way to get started.
That's fantastic. Well, Greg,
Mhm.
thank you for sharing, brother. I appreciate you. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today on Market Mavericks. We'll see you soon. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Market Mavericks. We hope you're walking away inspired and ready to take your own adventure to the next level. Don't forget to follow the show to keep up with our latest episodes. And if you enjoyed today's conversation, make sure to subscribe, share it with others who could benefit. And hey, if you know a market maverick who has a story that needs to be heard, please drop their name in the comments. We would love to bring their insights to the show. Until next time, keep pushing boundaries and leading with purpose.